Warriors podcast. I am Max.
I am Rich. At least that's what it says on the birth certificate.
That's what it says. And on this podcast, we will be focusing on the Weird Warriors. The Weird War Tales comic book series published by DC Comics from 1971 to 1983. We really will. And on this episode in particular, we're going to be taking an even more precise look at Weird War Tales number 61. But first, our good buddy Rich has something to say to you.
The Intel Report. Project Rice, a 6-issue mini published by Mad Cave Comics in 2023. Written by Zach Thompson, art by Jeff McComsey. It's 1952. The wound World War II inflicted on the world is still fresh. Sam Safdie and his ragtag group of treasure hunters have been searching for the fabled map of the Owl Mountains for years, and they finally found it. Their journey leads them to a massive war complex that hides both unknown horrors and a fortune in gold. However, the deeper they travel, the more they realize the complex has developed a life of its own, and that some secrets are better left buried in the past. Cover detail. Art by Howard Chaykin, 35 cents. Weird War Tales is yellow on white on a black background. A muscular man in a blue bodysuit sits in a chair, his legs and wrists encased in metal. His head is a bare skull. Behind him is a huge diamond-shaped pink view screen with a spaceship flying by, dodging explosions and weapons fire. Behind the chair is one eye and open mouth of a screaming human. An exploding word balloon exclaims, "War in a far-flung future! Sensational science fiction issue!" Cover date. March 1978, date of release, December 6th, 1977. No Killjoy, because Killjoy is pretty hard when sci-fi is involved. CNC, the close-up and angle of the human under the chair definitely gives this cover a Twilight Zone feel. Is the guy in the chair the pilot? The commander? There's a second smaller view screen by his right wrist. He has bare human hands, which kind of throws off the whole death visage thing going on. Definitely a weird looking cover, but I'm not a big comic sci-fi guy, and I'm not a big Howard Chaykin guy either. After a bit of thought, I shall give this a thumbs down.
Yeah, I just thought of this while you were going over your bit on the cover. Yeah, the bare skull and the fully fleshed out body and hands. I mean, Skeletor, come on. Nobody has a problem with Skeletor. So for my bit on this cover, it's opposite day because I really like the sense of design that's on display on this cover. This is where my design nerdery starts coming in. Hit me hard on this one. The diamond-shaped background scene that Rich referred to not only adds depth, but it forms a bridge for the eyes, taking you from the logo up top to the seated figure below. The seated figure then dominates the foreground and ably represents the themes of the series, a tormented, imprisoned figure whose head has become a vision of death. Then, down below, an even more imprisoned figure peers out at us from a digital or virtual prison, hinting at multiple layers of damnation. I also want to point out the work of the colorist here. The yellow in the logo, which looks great all on its own, I do like the logo in yellow, is carried downward into the battle scene, taking place in the background diamond, and the rocket exhaust, the explosions, and so on. The magenta in that diamond is then carried forward into that smaller view screen that Rich mentioned, hovering beside our prisoner's skeletal head. And to finish it off, the blue in the prisoner's jumpsuit is carried down into the blue of the digital image of the other prisoner's eye. This is excellent work, in my opinion.
Okay, next up, we have ourselves an introduction page. Art by Howard Chaykin again. Death wears a spacesuit and floats in space over a green planet. 6 alien starships are engaged in battle behind him as lasers, thrusters, and explosions fill the scene over the starry background of the universe. Death says,
Few things are constant in this ever-changing universe. I am one, for I am death, and I am part of the past, present, and the future. In ages to come, man will conquer the stars, but he will still be battling himself, and only I can win that battle. Journey with me into a time centuries hence, and a world as yet unborn, where all is new, and where we shall see the latest struggle in the Weird War. Comments and commendations on this intro page that I just provided my super awesome narration that you all totally enjoy to. I'll kick it off and say, before I rave about the art, which I'm gonna, let me give the writing some credit here and just say that I really appreciated the overall message that says that even if our species ever manages to get off our planet in any meaningful sense, that we will still just be humans ruining everything and killing each other over nothing in a series of new and exciting locations. Very good. Now, let's get back to that art. Again, the sheer strutting skill of the design going on here just casually blows me away. You got the rocket trails, laser beams, and explosions, all balancing the full page image perfectly, even while seeming to and effectively portraying a scene of total chaos. The floating corpse of our spacefaring host is excellently rendered as well, and the entire page also seems to be balanced and blocked out perfectly for word balloon placement. That almost never happens, okay? I think I've gotten this show in some wah boo-boo timeout trouble in the past for speaking less than favorably about Howard Chaykin before, and I do not care about that. But I also feel like I'll be giving the guy, Mr. Chaykin, some credit where it's due if this kind of stuff keeps up here in the pages of this particular comic.
1978. Star Wars had just hit the theaters the year before, and that god-awful first Star Trek movie is still a year away. Sci-fi, baby! I like Chaykin's art better here than on the cover. It actually gives me a bit of Frank Miller vibes. Or maybe that should be Frank Miller gives me Howard Chaykin vibes at this particular point in time. Death is floating spread-eagled as ships zoom all around and one explodes. I think the intro page sells what this comic is all about better than the cover does, actually, as Death mocks how little progress mankind has truly made centuries from now. Good start. As a quick sidebar, I read the fine print under the intro for once and was amused to see that the annual subscription rate is $5. There are individual comics today that are more than $5. And assuming WWT is a monthly, 12 times 35 cents is $4.20. What's up for the other 80 cents? That's another whole 2 comics. Is it postage or is DC robbing the fans? Gah! Why'd I have to read that? Now I'll never know.
Like Jack Kirby said, Rich, don't ask, just buy it. So, since we're buying it, since we've already bought in over here, I'm going to move us on past that awesome intro page into the first actual story of the issue, which is linked up to that page and the cover, as you'll see. It is called Mind War. It's 8 pages long. Script is by first-timer in this series, Roger McKenzie, legend. Pencils by, guess who? Howard Chaykin. Inks by only-timer for this series, David Morris. Synopsis for this 8-page epic goes like this. A squadron of spaceships moves through the inky darkness. Commander, the first officer exclaims. Ment scans, picking up an enemy armada, dead ahead and closing fast, sir. Sound battle alert, June, the commander orders as a shrill alarm begins to sound. We're gonna give 'em hell. Elsewhere, sitting in a chair with a giant battle screen behind him, is the same man with a shaved head with sensors attached to it. With the flip of a single switch, Commander Aaron Haley created 1,000 gleaming spacecraft and 1,000 times 1,000 troops with his mind and sent them hurtling across the galaxy to their deaths. I promise you, June, we're gonna give them hell. Tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, he will do the same. How long has it been? He can no longer remember. The war is eternal, as endless as the universe itself. Once, there were real soldiers and real ships. Now the men are gone. Their ships rusted hulks, desecrated silent tombs that litter the cosmos. Now there is only Haley and his mind war, the thinking man's war. To Haley, Earth's final defender, it was a grim, lonely joke because the Troahians, damn their spongy hides, little SpongeBob SquarePants takes over the universe there, had their own mental fleets and phantom armies born of mind and machine that ravaged the spaceways. Haley would never surrender, despite the strain of the mentally draining warfare, as long as Earth still had a chance, and a part of him, at least, still had an armada to command. A great battle erupts as the two fleets merge. Haley's vessel dives between two enemy ships and they blast each other instead. I need more ships, faster ships, he muses, and increases the power on his ment panel. On the bridge of his ship, the Iron Maiden, Haley looks out the window. There! We've got them now. The new ships are flanking them, pinning them in a trap. Aaron, look, June cries. The Troahians' fleet is gone. They just disappeared. Damn, are you positive? A total wipeout? What'll we do now, Aaron? The commander sits in his chair and puts his feet up. There's nothing we can do except wait and pray. The next move is up to the enemy. Elsewhere, Commander Haley looks at the screens and again flips a switch that increases the ment power. The Troahian commander was as cunning as he was ruthless. He'd broken off the mind war between the two of them, leaving Haley's mental constructs floundering helplessly in deep space without an enemy to fight. The Earthman was on the defensive now, and that could be fatal. The Troahian armada could reappear anywhere at any moment. Sweat ran down Haley's face and into his eyes, but he dared not blink, not even for a second. When will it all end, Aaron? June asks. This war, I can't even remember why we're fighting anymore. Haley pulls her to her feet from her chair and embraces her. We're fighting for us, June, for us, and for Earth. God, have you forgotten what we had before? Before... He chokes back the tears and composes himself. But I think it's time to force the enemy's hand. The Earth fleet vanishes. Elsewhere, the commander roars. Come on, damn it! Make your play! At 6 times the speed of thought, the Iron Maiden and the Earth fleet reappears halfway across the universe. Scanners! Picking up a single ship, closing rapidly, Commander. Enemy flagship! Apparently, my Troahian counterpart wants to slug this out man to man, and that's fine with me. Elsewhere, the commander increases the power to Ment 8. A warning light flashes. Danger! I'll show him what Earthmen are made of, he grunts as the pressure builds. Strain at Ment 8's barely tolerable. Aboard the Iron Maiden, Haley gives the command. Blast him! Blast him back to hell and back! A complete miss, Aaron, June cries. Scanners have lost him. Haley is stunned. A miss at Ment 8? Incredible. Deflector shields at full. Rigged for collision. An explosion throws the two humans to the deck. Haley recovers first and bends over June. He leans over June, we're going to say, because if he's bending her over... Haley recovers first and leans over June. Are you okay? I think so. He just materialized behind us, caught us with a full laser volley. She gets up and checks the panel. Oh God, Aaron, our shields are down. Another pass, and we'll be so much floating debris. Elsewhere, Haley shouts, No! No, I won't lose you, June. Not again. He presses Ment 10. The warning is too brief. Extreme danger. Immediate back off required. Electricity crackles through Haley and he screams. Aboard the Iron Maiden, Haley staggers under the load of Ment 10. Never mind about me, he groans to June. I'll hold out. I have to come to a full stop and wait till that Trohadian vulture drops down to examine his kill. Then hit him with everything we got. They do, and a volley of fire from the Iron Maiden blasts the enemy flagship to junk. We did it, June. Earth saved. Somewhere else, Commander Haley sits in a chair in a padded room, wearing a straitjacket. As damn that word, man. As two Troahians watch him. How many times does that make? Oh, how many times does that make, Doctor? How many times has he killed me? 2,432, Commander. There's little we can do for him, I'm afraid. He was a worthy foe, but Earth's total defeat those many years ago was simply too much for him. Regrettable, but a fact of war nonetheless. Still, it's better this way, I suppose. After all, he can't hurt anyone. At least not with his war, because it's all in his mind. The commander gently pats Haley's shoulder as the human babbles on. Steady as she goes, June. We'll show those damn Troahians, won't we, June? Earth will never surrender. Never! The end.
No Killjoy, because, like I said, sci-fi, CNC. This one was tough, going back and forth between the ships and the elsewhere of where the mental battle was actually being waged. It's kind of the cover story. I like the Egyptian eye on the hull of the Iron Maiden on page 3, panel 1. Sweet touch. The mix of space combat and the Mind War commander on the whole page gets high marks. The scene of page 7, panel 4 reminds me a bit of the New Gods Orion, which is a stunning reach for yours truly, because I never read that comic. But there it is, even for me. And speaking of comics, does anyone else get a Professor X and Cerebro vibe with the bald Haley and the headset on? The last part of the story talks to me, too, of the sympathetic Trohanian commander, and I can't say it either, patting Haley's shoulder. I think the relationship between June and the commander is a bit too familiar. She goes back and forth between Aaron and Commander too easily. And it took me too long to figure out ment was short for mental. And I was surprised that it took me until I was writing the CNC for me to discover that Commander Haley is smoking a pipe. He's puffing away on at least 3 panels, and I never saw it. It always just disappeared into the background or lined up with something else. Page 2, panel 2 for points. Didn't the comics code have something about smoking, or are pipes too sophisticated? Whatever. Not as bad as I first thought this was going to be.
Okay, and as you were talking about that, something I forgot to put in my CNC, but I'm pretty sure Chaykin would have done this on purpose. I'm not certain when Roger McKenzie went bald, but the bald Haley, especially in the final panels of the story, looks a lot like Roger McKenzie. Like a lot. So I think Chaykin might have put him in the story for fun, but who knows? Roger might have had a full head of glorious hair back then. I have no idea. So as for the comics code and smoking, no. They only censored things that Frederick Werdum and others disingenuously ginned up a panic over back in the 50s. Back when smoking was good for you. And also, the tobacco companies had ad money. So, no. Characters like Nick Fury, The Thing, and Wolverine were always chomping cigars in the comics, along with more professorial types like Reed Richards and Will Magnus, creator of the Metal Men over at DC, who puffed away on their pipes until relatively recently. Well, recently as in around 2001, because I'm old, that still seems recent to me, when then current Marvel editor-in-chief Joe Quesada banned it, at least for the good guys in the comics. There's a quote here from an article I looked up. The no smoking decision was a personal one for Quesada, a non-smoker who lost his grandfather to smoking-related emphysema, and then saw his father suffer a collapsed lung from smoking last year when the article was written, and still had problems with quitting. That's from an article on Comic Book Resources, I'm pretty sure I looked up. Just want to mention where I stole that from. so yeah, the Comics Code censored a lot of things for very stupid reasons, but smoking was not one of them. So much overly dramatic hay has been made of that decision that Joe made in 2001 to this day, even though the sentiment and practice seemed to just naturally spread through the Marvel and DC offices as the years went on. You'd be hard-pressed to find a smoking hero today. I mean, they used to have Johnny Blaze, the first Ghost Rider that was published, when he guest starred in the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider in the 90s that even you read, Rich, for a little while. They used to have Johnny Blaze with an actual cigarette in his mouth, you know. So even the lowly cigarette made multiple appearances before this 2001 thing. But hey, I'm supposed to be talking about a Weird War Tales story. Okay, sure, fine, why not? Right away, boom, a 2-page splash. Okay, I gotta say hi to the doggy. A 2-page splash with 6 individual panels running on top of it, right? Okay, so fine. A 2-page half splash with 6 individual panels running on top of it kicks off the story, each side depicting a different side of the titular mind war. Granted, this gives away the twist ending of the story rather quickly, but in a visual sense, this is an unimpeachable opening. And yes, while I appreciated the use of the name Iron Maiden for the ship, I drove myself nuts looking for that exact Egyptian symbol, and the closest I came was a non-specific Egyptian eye design offered at a tattoo shop. Now, both the Eye of Horus and the Eye of Ra look somewhat similar to the symbol on the side of the ship, but they don't have the 3 straight eyelash lines coming down from the lower lid of the eye. They have these different symbols called wajets, and the Eye of Horus and Ra, they point in opposite directions. So I did go deep on that, people, I promise you. I could go on for a bit just from what I memorized, and I didn't know any of it before I started looking it up. So if anyone does know exactly what this symbol is supposed to mean, please let me know. And, you know, I'll let people pause here who are Iron Maiden fans and there's an Egyptian symbol to sing Power Slave, you know, for a little bit. And then we can get back to the comic book. Chaykin just keeps showing off, with page 4 having 10 or 11, depending on if you count the narrative caption, panels, without losing a bit of clarity or aesthetic appeal. And he is already at this stage in his career a master of the narrow panels all in a row technique, as seen at the bottom of page 5. Again, jumping out to mention, Rich mentioned a link between Miller and Chaykin and design sensibility here. This is a trick that Miller's very good at too, using these sliver panels without making things look terrible. So there you go. Over on page 7, panel 4 gives me another strong reminder of Walt Simonson's style, with the anger lines coming off our poor sap of a main character. So let me make it all very clear if I haven't already. I think Howard Chaykin turned in a champion of a job here in the pages of this story. As for the story of the story, well, I like Roger McKenzie. He's a Bronze Age stalwart and often a favorite writer of mine. But here, the execution and exposition is all a bit sloppy and mildly incoherent. I mean, I do get what the intent of the story was, but the delivery of it raised more questions than it should have. For example, Aaron seemed cognizant of his admittedly falsified role as the man in the chair commanding a push the buttons and they appear remote space fleet, but he was also one of the men on one of those ships, like physically, and he was in love with, or at least deeply cared for June, who was on that ship with him. Was she supposed to be a real person by the rules of the little fantasy world that the aliens made for him? It's hard to figure out. Maybe the inconsistent logic in the setup of it all is part of what's cracked his frail Terran mind, like the aliens couldn't quite get that right. But that's me making excuses for the story. I don't know. Excellent art, somewhat clumsily told story is my verdict for this one. But the fact that this story got rich to make a new Gods reference without any input from me gives it a slight bump too.
Story number 2, The Mercenary. 8 pages. Script by Robert Conager. Art by Alex Nino. Synopsis. David Lotto is gently shaken awake by his wife, Nora. Time to get up and go to work. If you don't hurry, you won't have time for breakfast. Lotto groans and gets out of bed. What would you like for breakfast, honey? Nora asks. We've been married for 4 years, and you ask me the same question all the time. I want the usual. Breakfast number 3. He then speaks loudly to the integrated computer as he stretches. Work uniform, please. Full combat gear. What's different about a man getting up in the morning to go to work like countless men before him through the ages? There are 2 differences. The year is 3002, and David Lotto, age 25, is the mercenary. After breakfast, like so many other husbands leaving for work, a wifely kiss. Be careful, darling. Don't worry, Nora. Nothing's going to happen. I'll be all right. It's getting late. Better call my crew. He speaks into his wrist radio. Lower world leader to crew number 11. Let's go. Over. A long, low-slung hovercraft soon appears filled with crew 11 on board, and Lotto joins them. Ben, a chronic oversleeper, is actually on time for once. The crew chats amongst themselves as their bus takes them to the job site. Sure could use a raise, Dave, with food prices skyrocketing. Yeah, the wife tells me that steak hit $27 a pound. Think the government's wiretapping scandal at Aquaportal will topple them? If it does, the volunteer army's latest strike might. Our trouble's nothing compared to the plague that's killing millions in the jungle belt. Their craft soon stops and Lotto hops off. Here we are, lower world hatch number 817. Block off the area for 1,000 yards in every direction so we won't be bothered by rubberneckers. He then speaks into his radio again. Crew number 11, lower world leader to all crews. Starting operations at lower world hatch number 817 at 6:59 a.m. Over. To his crew, he barks out another command as he unslings his rifle. Put on your anti-radiation masks. Another day, another dollar. Let's go. The hatch opens and Lotto leads the way below ground. Lower world is a devastated hellscape. I'll never be able to understand why humans would want to live in this atom bomb blasted radioactive rat hole, one of the men exclaims. They had their choice of a final sleep pill when upper world was overpopulated and there wasn't enough food or space to go around, Lotto explains. Instead, they chose to hide down here like rats, surviving the noxious atmosphere, thriving on garbage, increasing in numbers, a threat to upper world, until we mercenaries have to hunt out these vermin and destroy them. He activates his mini amplifier and calls out to the ruins. Attention! When you lived in the upper world, you all signed personal subtraction permissions like the rest of us. But when your time came to be subtracted from the population explosion by taking the final sleep pill, you broke your word and fled down here. Surrender! Let us put you out of your misery with the painless final sleep pill. The answer came in a cascade of debris raining down on the mercenaries, killing 3 of them. They won't listen to reason. Fire at will, Lotto orders. The mercenaries open fire, killing several of the attacking mutants. A cry for help from one of their own is heard in a nearby subway tunnel, and Lotto leads his men down after him. He's down here somewhere. Keep triple alert. More mutants are blasted as the mercenaries advance. One of the men pipes up. I overslept this morning, Dave. Didn't have a chance to have breakfast. This job sure makes me work up an appetite. When are we going to stop for chow? You'll get a chance to feed your tapeworm, Ben. We've got to find that mercenary. Find him they do. Too late. Pinned under debris with rats already at him. Weapons fire chases the vermin off. Continuing the mission, the tunnel the mercenaries follow branches off into 3 directions, and the mercenaries split up to clear each branch. Mutants swarm Lotto's squad from the darkness and quickly overwhelm the outnumbered men. Lotto starts hurling grenades, but they can't be stopped. Swinging their clubs, they launch themselves at the mercenary leader, who desperately but futilely fights back. Crazies! Why didn't you surrender? Quickly, it's over, and the mutants vanish back into the darkness, leaving Lotto's body behind. His wrist radio crackles. Hey, Dave, it's Ben. Come on out, time for lunch. There's a special on fried chicken. Even a mercenary is entitled to chow. Come in, Dave. Why don't you answer? Why don't you answer? Why, indeed. As the hungry rats close in. Could it be that Dave has already gone to lunch? Forever.
So we got no killjoy on that one, as Rich has explained. I'll let the rim shot clear for that final comment from Death. Let that reverberation peter out, and I'll kick off the CNC. So, okay, Alex Nino is an established favorite of the show. And this is far from his worst work, but in my opinion, it is kind of lazy by his standards for the most part. The backgrounds are pretty sparse, except for some really good shots like our first glimpse of the lower world on page 4, panel 1, which is great. However, a lot of the rest of the scenery is about as detailed as a distant Infantino skyline, and is likely to be repeated as a hugely complicated piece of Kirby tech. Don't get me wrong, what's there on the page looks good, but it also looks like Nino could have ripped this out on a weekend with ease. What I find more interesting about this story is the apparent war within Bob Conagher's mind. We're back to a mind war, people. Between his reputedly arch-conservative sensibilities, like page 2, panel 1, we've got the wifely kiss, and panel 4, the wife tells me that steak has hit $27 a pound. So it's still like, the wife has to serve up breakfast number 3. You get a little kiss before you go off to work, and the wife does all the shopping and all that. Still in 3002. Okay? And then there's, by comparison, Conagher's seemingly prescient, if not progressive, grasp of the possible dangers facing human existence on planet Earth. Overpopulation, government abuse with the wiretapping, plagues running rampant. But this tension between the two sides of Conagher falls a bit flat when the story just kind of ends. Just, the guy dies, that's it, story's over. I will add that I was a little taken aback that the lower worlders were portrayed as having devolved into semi-simian caveman-like creatures. But then I remembered that radiation was supposed to be at play. And in comics, that's an excuse for anything. It's a reluctant neutral thumb for me on this one, folks.
Can I get away with calling this a day after Doomsday Story? Well, I'm gonna. My appreciation for Nino's artwork continues to improve. Page 2, panel 4, of vehicles zipping around on opposite sides of a monorail with multicolored eddies in the background is amazing, as is page 4, panel 1 of the mercenaries going underground. The shadowy wreckage and scurrying rats, dimly lit by the light of the tiny hatch overhead, is on point. Page 5, panels 4 and 5 show the crushed mercenaries, and the other mercenaries blasting attacking mutants. There's a search and destroy reference, S&D, there. That's obviously a nod to our tactics in Vietnam. But just like the War Department got renamed the Department of Defense, language is everything, especially in the military. Later in Vietnam, said missions were renamed to Sweep and Clear or Clear and Hold, terms we use today in counterinsurgency ops. Page 7 is vintage DC war. Silhouettes in the tunnel, the attack from above, the desperate hurling of a grenade to fend off the inevitable. And Conagher sets the table brilliantly in the lead-in for the combat scenes with all the, "So did you catch the game last night, Bill?" chatter amongst all the mercenaries. Just another day at the office. Really, the only downvote I have for this story are the design issues for the anti-radiation gear. The weird oval-shaped helmets only cover the nose, page 3, panel 4, and almost make the mercenaries look like E.T. And you're not wearing gloves in a radiation-riddled apocalypse zone? Really? Your eyes aren't shielded either. These aren't insignificant whiffs, but still, great story. I would read again in a minute. So, APO Weird War Tale. I'm going to go with our old standby, Mark Schmieder again. Dear Paul, another all Arnold Drake issue? How many are left in your inventory file? Trial by combat enters the dream world of a dying soldier, and at the end, questions whether there was some reality in his dream world. At the end, the nurse is shown with skull eyes, which I take to mean that she was death and caused Lomax's dream and or his death. A weird war story indeed. Its main point seems to be that there is some reality, even in our dreams. Dick Ayers and Jerry Tlayock did an acceptable job on the art. The dog agrees. Madhouse Bomb was stranger still, with a lot of character. But as madness is relative, once the Emperor had spread the virus around the world, causing everyone to go insane, then insanity would have been the norm, and everyone, though insane by our standards, would be sane by their own. This story had a lot of class, though. Count of Basie, indeed. Yeah, I called that out too. And Bill Drought added even more life to the story with his art. Romeo Tanghal did a sloppy cover, but it was a nice idea, almost. And I agree with readers complaining about the all-present Death's head on the cover. And Paul responded with, to answer your first question, Mark, not many more. Over the past several years, we've pretty much exhausted our supply of inventory of weird stories. And as editor Levitz points out in his message above, which Max will read shortly, Weird War Tales is on its way to a whole new look. Even now, stories too numerous to mention here are in the works for WWT, several book lengthers included. So keep an eye on WWT in the near future.
Yeah, and as Rich mentioned, the remaining letters are kind of dull as dishwater. I'm not going to read just a "I liked it" or "I kind of liked it" letter from many of these people. So I'm stealing this from what Rich originally intended to kick this off with. Paul Levitz had a little blurb at the start of the APO Weird War Tales column, and it goes like this. Dear readers, this issue is both an experiment and a return to the tradition of Weird War Tales. When this magazine was first launched 7 years ago, many issues were devoted to specific themes. In recent years, we've lost that technique and have concentrated on balanced issues. Now we'd like to take a step backwards and forwards at the same time. All of which, by the way, all of this by way of explaining this issue's science fiction theme and unusual look. Writers Roger McKenzie and Bob Coninger and artists Howard Chaykin and Alex Nino did knockout jobs to celebrate this unusual opportunity. And we hope you enjoy their efforts. Now, it's up to you to tell us whether you like this idea and the execution. Drop us a line and let us know if you'd like to see more themed issues. And if so, what themes we should tackle next. And I should tell them, like, even though they didn't exist yet, more Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew. Hey, come on. So there's your APO Weird War Tales. The letters as they are, and the announcement of the coming of some themed issues. And we're going to see if that promise carries out in future issues. But for now, we're going to take a look at our favorite spotlighted ads. And I'm going to kick this section off. And I'm going to say it's a good thing that this month's hostess ad is a rerun of Batman and the Sable Lady, because that forced me to look elsewhere this time around. And boy, did I find something cool. Yes, I did simply fall back on one of my other tried and true choices, the DC Comics house ad, but check this out. On the extra Daily Planet insert, they're advertising something called the Wonder Woman Spectacular. And I'm just going to read you the copy here first. All-star art team combines for $1 comic special. Paradise Island, Wonder Woman explodes into her first all-new dollar comic spectacular the week of December 12th with a 64-page story by Jack C. Harris and art by Jose Delbo, Russ Heath, Steve Ditko, Dick Ayers, and Vince Colletta. Determined that World War II must continue, Mars, the god of war, places a special disc in the possession of one warrior. With the war force being channeled directly to Mars, the war cannot end while the disc is on Earth, and so it is up to Wonder Woman to find and destroy it. But that will not be at all easy. In addition to a congressional investigation of the amazing Amazon and the appearance of a new crime fighter called the Bombardier, there is an attack on Paradise Island by Mars himself and battles between Wonder Woman and the Red Panzer, Baroness von Gunther, and Adolf Hitler. It's a special you won't want to miss as World War II explodes before your eyes in the Wonder Woman Spectacular. And like a page later, there's a smaller house ad. It just says the Wonder Woman epic so unique, it takes 4 artists 64 pages to tell the tale. Be sure to read the Ultimate Wonder Woman World War II Adventure on sale December 13th. So we've got a World War II focused 64-page Wonder Woman story, and Russ freaking Heath and Steve freaking Ditko are 2 of the 4 artists that tell the tale. I'm willing to bet Rich doesn't have this issue in his house. So that's my ad.
You would be willing to bet correctly, sir. Just like that Superman Wonder Woman fight that we talked about a couple of episodes ago. I will have to go look this one up, if for the Russ Heath art, if nothing else, obviously. So, my ad. Arguably cooler than this ad, but you decide. Diving into these pages filled by the 1-inch by 2-inch ads, I found you can float on air around your house or school. Easy to build, lowest cost, man-sized air car in the world, powered by an ordinary vacuum cleaner motor. A great father and son project. Exciting, fun, low cost, easy, fantastic school science project. Amazing, it really works. For plans and photos, send $3.95 to WLET Works, Box 1822, Box Department N, Newport Beach, California, 92663. There's a picture of a kid sitting behind a triangular-shaped device with a chair in the middle of it. Each corner has a large circle attached to it. Presumably, whatever it is that makes this thing float is under them. WLET Works sounds like, will it work? Probably not. So I had to see if I could find out more about this thing. And Eric Robert Nolan's Throwback Thursday blog from March 28th, 2019 bailed me out. Here's another bizarre relic of Boys Life magazine in the 1980s, a magazine I was subscribing to back then. An ad for what was apparently a $4.95 do-it-yourself hovercraft. Oh, went up $1. Kids needed to read that entire ad to understand that what this company was selling you was not the air car itself or even its parts, but only plans and photos. A pal of mine in the Cub Scouts had his heart set on this, but I wisely cautioned him that you couldn't always trust advertisers. I learned my own lesson a couple of years prior from the duplicitous marketers of sea monkeys. You gotta read the whole thing, though, I told him. Pretend that you're dealing with the least trustworthy kid on the school bus. It was one of those truly rare moments in my life when I counseled circumspection to others instead of vice versa. He was pretty zealous in his desire for this thing. For some reason, he really wanted to take it out over Long Island Sound to Connecticut, presumably. I'm still not sure why he didn't want a jet ski. We indeed had those in the 80s. Oh well, as dreams go, it wasn't the worst that a kid could have. He never wound up sending away for it. I'm not sure if that's because he talked him out of it or not. But here's the stunning O. Henry-style postscript. I've read a few Reddit and Twitter posts from men in their 40s who also remember this Boys Life ad and who actually sent away for the plans. A couple of them claimed they successfully built this device and that the damn thing actually worked. Cue the theme music of Christopher Nolan's 2006 The Prestige. It certainly couldn't hold 100 pounds, they qualified, but it's technically still worked. I guess if I ever run into my old friend from the Cub Scouts after 40 years, I owe him a hovercraft. So yeah, cool ad. You can find the damnedest things in these little 1 inch by 2 inch ads sometimes. So moving on to, got any last words? And I do, because of course I do. A 2-story issue doesn't leave much to pick from for a winner, which was easily, for me, The Mercenary. The bad thing about a sci-fi issue is that it completely robs me of the chance to go on a History Minute or a Killjoy rant. I liked the intro page, ads and the letters page. I have to keep saying, all in all, I'm just not a Howard Chaykin fan, even if his art here grew on me, to be fair, as I reread the story for the synopsis. I'll put this one somewhere in the middle of the stack.
You'll put it right in the long box where it goes in sequential order, sir. So for my last words, it's another Siskel and Ebert style split here on the Weird Warriors podcast. I think you could tell by my comments and commendations, but Mind War is my pick for the issue. So yes, at least for my part, this is as close to a Howard Chaykin appreciation episode as this show is ever likely to provide. I'd still gladly rip that smugly arrogant foreword he wrote for the collected edition of JSA The Golden Age out of every copy ever printed if given the chance, but hey, great art in this one, Howie. So there you go. That's kind of the show, people. We've done it all. You made it through the whole thing with us. Here's where I mention at the end, we have an excellent, amazing, astounding Facebook page. The Weird Warriors podcast Facebook page, run and administered by your good buddy Rich. And we also have a store. Yeah, we do. It's on redbubble.com. You search the Weird Warriors podcast. You get our awesome logo that was created, designed, drawn by Bill Walco of theherobusiness.com. The guy's done art for Archie Comics. You get that cool logo. You put it on any piece of merch you can find at redbubble.com. You take a picture of that merch. You send it to us on Facebook Messenger, and you'll win a Sam Star. You know what it is. All right? So that bit of house business out of the way, I'll turn my chair around, and I'll ask Rich, hey, you got any extra scuttlebutt for the end here?
2 things. One, if memory serves, our next issue of Weird War Tales will have more Howard Chaykin art in it. So we'll see where that goes. I think it's a vampire story, if I remember correctly. So we'll see. I think a Chaykin vampire has some pretty high potential. But a little bit of sad announcement to pass on to you all. I mentioned my buddy, my World War II veteran buddy, Charlie Levesque. He gave me that really, really neat book, Mail Call by Milt Kenneth. You know, who's Miss Lace, you know, that sexy, sophisticated, dark-haired woman who mixed with American GIs at various locales during World War II. He gave me a book, you know, that was actually produced during the war in appreciation for me driving him to what's called dream flights in a local airport. Now, World War II vets got free open cockpit biplane rides in the Stearman. And, you know, he'd been in a nursing home, you know, since earlier this year. And I visited him a lot and everything. And unfortunately, he just passed a couple of days ago. So he was the last of my World War II buddies. We're losing them all, folks. We had with like 16 million served during the war, and we're down to like 20,000. I think we're losing them fast. So in a perfect world, there would at least be a World War II story in this episode, so I could, dedicate it to him instead of a sci-fi issue. But, we don't always get what we want, as the saying goes. So I want to dedicate this episode to my dear friend, my dear departed friend, Charlie Levesque. Fair winds and following seas, my friend. You will be missed. So on that downer, we will move into the teaser. Shake it off a little bit. Look at the calendar, kids. You know what time it is. Time for our 3rd annual Valentine's Day romance issue. Wartime Romances number 9 from 1952. What kind of politically incorrect hand-wringing will we find in this issue? Tune in next time and pack a hanky.
This show is the Weird Warriors podcast. Who are we? We're the Batlin Bros. We're the Weird Warriors. And on this show, we continue to keep our promise to make war
no more.